Thank you, Justin. Awesome. Thank you. Okay. All right. We are here with episode 7. Back from our little week break. We took a little mid season break just to relax a little bit. Um, we didn't know if this episode was going to happen today. We were projected to have, like, what was it? I want to say ballpark, it was like, what, 5 inches of snow maybe? We didn't even get like half an inch today. So it all worked out. But so thankfully, we're still able to do everything on time today. It's kind of weird. We're kind of getting close to the end of the season here. I want to say it's been a year because we started this back at the end of 2025, so that would be a unfunny dad joke to do. But it really has felt like an extended period of time. Like this has felt like it's been slogging on, unlike season one, where it just felt like every week just kept coming before I realized it. They probably just because of the different approach I've been taking to it, but the people that have been checking it out so far and still watching all the episodes, thanks. I appreciate it. Today we have an episode uh, that I originally had intended it to be the finale of the season, but I decided to switch it with another episode. Today we're talking about Vinland Saga. It's the one and only manga we're talking about on the season. I wanted to talk about Vinland Saga last season, but I couldn't exactly uh, find an album I wanted to talk about at that point. And two, when I originally had started writing the scripts for season one, Vinland Saga hadn't finished yet. The series wasn't over, and I wanted it to be completed in its entirety, as it's a story that happens in parts. And we'll get into that, what I mean by that, here in a sec. The album today uh, is Love is the Answer by Rubido. I've listened to their other albums before, but I never listened to their debut album here. And so I had recently given it a listen, ironically, around the same time Vinland Saga had ended. And so I wanted to make an episode for it because there's quite a surprising amount of parallels between these two. And I think it's going to do a great uh, point in delivering the message I want to get out to today, which is the same thing as the album, which is love is the answer. I know that's like sounds like the new age hippy dippy BS that like love is the answer. Love everyone, love everything. I genuinely believe that though. Let me break down that idea for you before I start corroborating it with these two medias, where I genuinely believe it is much easier to respond and be kind than to respond with hate and violence. Because I think you do yourself a service. I think you do the person you're responding to a service, the people around you a service as well. And in the long run, it'll make you feel better than just that hate sitting in the back of your head. I don't think you should respond to hate with more hate. That is a feedback loop. You've heard that a million times, probably. But you got to respond to hate with love. I'm a true believer in that. You got to be kind. You got to be patient. You got to be loving. And when you start loving other people, you'd be surprised how easy it is to get people to start loving it too, to get behind you, following the message, preaching it. I am 100% believer of that idea. So, what does that have to do with this album and Vinland Saga? Vinland Saga is a story that follows the Nordic Vikings. and it's very historically accurate, surprisingly. I ain't gonna get into the history stuff of it because that's not my shtick. But we follow this character from childhood to adulthood, Torfin, and Vinland Saga is a story about revenge and redemption. To give you like the Spark Notes version, is Torfin's father Tors is considered the strongest Viking alive at the time period, and he gets assassinated by a bunch of mercenaries that are hired to kill him. Torfin, wanting revenge, stows away on the ship to kill the mercenary leader, the captain. And the captain, finding this funny, decides to take Torfin under his wing and train him to be a mercenary. So he grows up constantly trying to come up with ways to become a better fighter and kill Askeladd in a duel, essentially. And that's just the first half of the story. This story also follows a theme of if you follow hate, you're not going to get what you want, even if you finally have it in your hands. Where the story ends with Askeladd sacrificing himself to save his people, and he's killed at the hands of someone else. And Torfin goes on a rampage, being incredibly angry that he was robbed of his chance to get revenge. And his parting words that he leaves to Torfin is, "Leave this wretched place and go become a true warrior." Then that brings us to our second half of the story, where Torfin becomes a slave. He's forced to work on a farm and tow away at fields, and he has just become a husk of who he was. He doesn't know what to do. He doesn't have a will to live. He lets himself get abused. And it's not until he meets this one guy named Einar. I'm probably mispronouncing his name. That's not a new thing here on the podcast. But him and Einar become very close friends. And through Einar wanting to understand Torfin, Torfin comes to understand who he wants to be, and he wants to be someone that is a true warrior. A warrior that brings peace and love to people, and not violence and hatred. And so he goes on a journey with Einar to escape the enslavement, the little farm, returns to his family that he was adopted from, and tries to start his own civilization where it's about peace, not about war, not about weapons, not about barricades or forts and such. And to wrap it all up in this little just speed run segment here, it's another bittersweet ending where he fails to make a peaceful town. They get run out of Vinland. Name of the title, they go find Vinland. Einar gets killed, and they bury him at Vinland. But Torfin gets this vision of basically his past predecessors telling him to continue his mission and such. And that's only reinforced by the journey of how we got to Vinland, where from him getting back to home and then back to Vinland, he meets with many survivors of people that his mercenary group raided and pillaged. And so, through all of that, he meets, I believe her name was Hilda, a little girl that he spared the life of but killed her parents, and she joins them on their mission, essentially to earn her forgiveness. And the second half of the story is the redemption part, where he meets people that are ghosts of his past or remind him of his violent mercenary past, essentially. And that's the redemption part, where he's proven right that even though this is the harder way to take, this is the correct path to take. So, what does that have to do with the album? Rubidoux, they're a little local band, I want to say somewhere in Colorado. I originally got introduced to them by a CD a friend lent to me when I was bartending, and I would just play on my little boombox I had. It was a pretty cool band, really like psychedelic-esque rock. The album was Vodka. That was the first album I listened to. But like I said earlier, it wasn't until around Vinland Saga ended I got around to listening to Love Is the Answer. And so the first song we're going to start with is the namesake track. It's the second track in the album called Love is the Answer. And it talks about this message of essentially, well, if you're a lover, you're a warrior. If you're a lover, you're a fighter. And just like Torfin, in his later half of the story, he fights for what he loves. He wants to bring peace and tranquility to the rest of the world. And I would argue that was the same thing as the revenge story, where the reason he took this path of vengeance, wanted to kill these mercenaries, was because his love for his father. He was so hurt by the loss of his father that he went. It originally all came back. It all comes back to love, man. I'm telling you. Like, I keep sending this hippy dippy stuff, but it's true. It's true. But I think the important thing is that they have this chorus that says, "Remember that you're here to heal." Um, Even though we're warriors, we're here to fight. We're here to love. Sharpen your sword, guided by your love. Every battle you're gonna get hurt, man. Every battle, every person you love, anything you do with love, you're gonna get hurt. And that's what happens to Torfin. He, throughout his entire childhood with the mercenaries, just had one thing on his mind. He'd keep fighting. He'd keep getting hurt, breaking bones, hurting people, all for revenge. He never gave himself time to heal. He never gave himself time to process stuff. Never gave himself time to heal his wounds. They all became scars. He got permanent injuries. And it's not until the very last moment where he loses the very thing he wants, revenge, that it all just comes crashing down, and it absolutely, utterly destroys him. And then we get to the second part of the series where he's just a husk of his former self. So I want to get into this next song, Who. Just not the Who's from Whoville, but just the song name Who, which it talks about this idea of you got to know yourself, know thyself. That is the beginning of wisdom, to know yourself, to know who you are, know what you want. And that's kind of Torfin's problem, because he lived an entire life where he just wanted revenge, but he never once thought how his life would be after that person died, after he got the revenge or they were killed. He didn't know what to do with himself. He didn't know what to fight for anymore. And it's because of Einard that helps him kind of realize what he wants to fight for. And it's through that he figures out who he is, who he wants to fight for, what he really loves. And it's when the whole farm gets raided by this giant army led by Canute, who Torfin actually protected and escorted during his mercenary days. It is when he is surrounded by the army and he wants to talk to Canute to let him and his friend Einard leave the island free, that he is punched 200 times by the whole army, essentially. And Canute asks him, how come he's here? How come he's still fighting, even though you don't want to hurt anyone or you haven't fought back? And that's when the most iconic phrase in the whole series, Torfin turns to Canute and he says, I have no enemies. He believes that everyone on this world are just people going at it for no reason, people that are killing each other for no reason, because he believes that at that moment he finally realizes and believes that the way to become a true warrior is to not pick up a weapon, not to throw your fist at another man. It's to help people understand each other and help them, find peace with themselves and the world around them. And it shows true, because for the rest of the series after that, every fight Torfin gets into, he doesn't use a weapon to hurt anyone. He doesn't kill anyone. He tries to de-escalate every situation he can. And he becomes this most, a complete opposite of what he was, this absolutely brutal, murdering, killing machine as he was as a mercenary child, to almost Buddhist-like pacifist. The contrast between the two is so insane. They're practically different characters. And I feel like that accurately describes who Torfin is at the beginning of the second part of the series. The song "Who" is just figuring out who you are, who you love, who you want to be, what you want to do. I want to lead off into the next song. One, a lot of one title songs in this track. Funnily enough, but I think this song is a bit of a kind of continues off that message of just everyone on this earth impacts the world in a different way. Torfin wants to bring peace to the world, and he wants to do it his way, which is through making everyone happy, bringing peace to the world, bringing peace to his people, bringing peace to his friends, and to himself. However, he doesn't do it on the great scale as Canute, who has entire armies at his beck and call, an entire kingdom. Not as the same as these mercenary warlords that have these brigands and on the move militias that can pillage entire towns and cities on a whim. He just has him and a handful of friends going from town to town, righting his wrongs of the past, helping people be safe, saving towns, and saving individual people. Sorry, bit of a runny nose. But I think that's an important thing to realize is that we all have our method of bringing love and peace to this world, bringing change to do good to this world. When people have this idea of like, I want to change the world, I want to save the world, I want to do big things, they want to shake the world. However, it's always like this idea of like it has to be violent, it has to be a huge magnitude, it has to be felt by the whole earth. But this song talks about that even if you're just one person and you still do the things you want to do, that you genuinely believe and care for, the things that you love, you can still leave an impact on the world, even though it'll still be a gentle shake, but gentle nonetheless. And that's what Torfman does. He knows he doesn't have an army. He knows he doesn't have political influence. All he does have is that he's a great fighter, and he knows what he wants to do. So instead of stopping entire armies or corrupt kings, he helps people one at a time. Even though it's not a lot, it's not much, but these people, they have their lives to thank Torfin for. They have their lives now because thanks to Torfin, who's on this whole idea of love is the answer. And that's how he's helping the world. Although it's not on a huge magnitude, it's still something small. It's gentle. And now that's going to bring us to our last track today. And it's also the last track of the album, Love is the Answer. Last track of the album is It's All Fine. And the idea of this song is that it's kind of doubling down on the whole message of the album where you got to bring forward who you are and know who you are. Because if you don't, that's going to hurt you. And that's kind of a message that's prominent through the first half of the story where Torfin, he's a warrior, but he's not a warrior that's meant to revel in the blood of battle or the glory of conflict or conquering people, slaughtering armies. He is a warrior that is supposed to bring love and peace. But he doesn't realize that until later in life. And this song talks about that. If you're not able to bring forth your whole self, who you really are, it will destroy you. It will hurt you. It will damage you. But if you're able to achieve great things. And the whole idea is that the only way to bring that out is to embrace the idea of love. And I'm not talking like, love thy neighbor or be kind to everyone. I'm talking like you got to carry it unconditionally with everything you do. You got to have kindness. You got to have patience with every little action, with every little person, little mundane thing too. I'm not saying something like appreciate the time you have. I'm saying that it's kind of got to be something you live and breathe. And even though it just sounds like such a simple concept, believe me, I got times, man, like I work food service. I got times where even if I got a customer that's like being a little rude, it's hard to be patient and kind, especially when you got to deal with it for 8 hours a day. But you got to respond to hate with love. Because, like I said earlier, if you start loving, people will get behind that message, man. And it's the same thing with Torfin. Even though he did a lot of wrong, and there were a lot of people that wanted him dead for his actions with the mercenary group, he was able to respond to them with patience and kindness, and they eventually became part of his little mercenary group. Not mercenary group because they're not mercs for hire. They're not killing anyone. That's the number one rule in Torfin's group, that if you're gonna help him on his mission and fight, no lethality, no violence, no fighting. Everything gets de-escalated. But that's how Torfin moves. That's how Torfin talks. That's what Torfin breathes. That's what he is. He is love, and he brings that to everyone he speaks to and meets. So, and it's all because he took the time to heal. And it was a process. It's not something that like he just left that farm, realized what he wanted to do, and he felt healed. He was complete. No. He was forced to face a lot of his past actions and crimes and guilt. Families he's killed, cities he's ruined, and that ultimately hurt, but it helped him heal. He did make the world a better place. I think by the end of the story, he's still encouraged to carry on his mission and his journey, even though he failed. And that's going to happen, man. You're going to give it your all, you're going to try, and you're still going to fail. But if you truly believe in it, you'll still make the world a better place. Even if it's not to a big magnitude, it'll be gentle. Nonetheless, it's a gentle shake. And so with that, I'm going to leave this off with our recommendation. This was originally the album I wanted to talk about for this episode, actually. However, I decided to switch it to Rubidoux. So I am recommending a whole album this time around, which is Remember That You Are Loved by Kimya Dawson. It's a very cute, fairy-like album. As much as I liked the album, the themes of the songs didn't really fit into what I had in mind for the script. However, I still think it's very worthy of a listen. Please go check it out. And so with that, on a much shorter episode than usual, thank you for listening, and I'll catch y'all next week.